Hi everyone, I'm Ray Anthony Rivera and I'm going to be discussing my assignment number 3, which is on module 6 to 8. Thank you for listening. Starting off with module 6, Medium Access Protocols. Medium Access Protocol is what governs how a shared channel is allocated to all stations. We have store and forward, which pertains to point-to-point network types, and broadcast packet network, wherein all stations hear the packet but only the destination will retrieve it. For this scope, we shall be focusing on the latter. We now concern ourselves with the broadcast medium, which disseminates information via telecommunications. This involves transmissions through signals and electromagnetic waves. Focusing on a broadcast channel, the question is, how do we allocate the shared channel to each station in such a way wherein efficient channel utilization is achieved, while station connectivity is maintained or promoted? Medium access protocols answer this question through a variety of techniques, which are the fixed assignment technique, random access, demand assignment, and mixed strategies. In the fixed assignment technique, the channel is allocated in a static fashion by dividing it into multiple individual bands, and it does not adapt or depend on station activity. One such technique is FDMA, which stands for Frequency Division Multiple Access. In here, each user is confined to a particular frequency band which allows stations to transmit freely. Guard bands are then placed to prevent overlapping or interference. To illustrate, we have the below figure wherein each user F freely transmits throughout T time while remaining in the specified band range. It's what FM radios utilize, and they simultaneously broadcast while we can opt to receive any by switching our radios to the specified frequency. TDMA, Time Domain Multiple Access. Here, each user is assigned a particular time slot. If the time slot for a user arrives, it will be able to utilize the entire channel. Similarly, to prevent overlapping, a guard time is placed. It's commonly used for digital communication, and since it uses the entire channel, a higher data carrying capacity is achieved. This is also what creates the famous buzzing sound in phones, whenever a transmission is being received. Lastly, we have CDMA, Code Division Multiple Access. Transmission here is unlimited in frequency spectrum and time slot. In the figure, frequency hopping is employed, but there are also other means. This is commonly used in mobile networks as well and is referred to as 3G. Unlike TDMA though, where transmission is sliced to time slots, CDMA can transmit all at the same time. It is up to the receiver instead to determine which data it will receive by using its unique decoding key. Now the next technique is random access techniques. Here the station shares the channel by the random way they request access for the medium. Just by that statement, it would imply that collisions may very well occur. To combat this, stations may contest for the access. Under it is Pure Aloha. In Pure Aloha, any station can request for access to the medium randomly, given that it's prone to collision. The figure here illustrates each station X that requests randomly, and for instances where they overlap, like with C and E, the signal is destroyed or lost. Thus, the more the stations, the higher the possibility for collisions. Improving upon it is the slotted Aloha. Here, any station can request for access randomly too, but only on assigned time slots. Although it's still prone to collision, it's less prone than pure Aloha. The figure displays the transmissions as more organized and confined to the time slots, so no extra small creeps and such from another station's request will destroy a clean one. Further improving on the previous is CSMA, or Carrier Sense Multiple Access. So by the name of it, stations sense the channel before transmission. As a result, probability of collision is lessened. It has two main protocols, the non-persistent and the P-persistent. In non-persistent, when a station senses that the channel is busy, it schedules the retransmission following the preset delay, and then it resenses again at that moment. While if sensed idle, it simply transmits. In P-persistent though, If the channel is sensed as busy, it waits till the channel is idle and then transmits immediately with probability p. A variant of it is the one persistent. Here the probability of it transmitting immediately once the channel is idle is equal to 1, which is always, making it a greedy algorithm. CSMA-CD, which is carrier sense multiple access with collision detection, is an improved CSMA which has the capability to detect a collision and abort it immediately, which saves it time. The third technique is demand assignment. Channel allocation is based on the demands by the stations. It has two group types, central controlled and distributed control. The last technique is mixed strategies. As the name says, it's a combination of the different techniques to be used. It's ideal for scenarios where prioritization is integral, as it can make use of a certain technique, then switch to another if, for example, a collision is incurred. Now we move on to Module 7, IEEE 802 LAN Standards. As we learned previously, IEEE is the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, which establishes standards in the electrical and electronic development industry. Starting off with 802.3 and the Ethernet. This standard enables communication among a number of computers. It has a low error rate and moderate to high data rate. It's confined to a moderate geographic area such as offices. The MAC sublayer protocol, where MAC stands for Medium Access Control, is based on the one persistent CSMA-CD protocol. Thus, it immediately transmits once the channel is sensed as idle, but it employs a backup algorithm when a collision is detected. It has three possible bus states: idle, collision, and valid transmission. For the physical layer specifications, various cables can be used, and it follows the naming convention of data rate, then medium type, then max segment length. Notably, baseband systems use the Manchester encoding system, and the three most popular used specifications are 10 base 5, 10 base 2, and 10 base T. Next is the parts of the frame. Here we can see that we have the preamble, the SD, the destination and source addresses, LF, the optional 802.2 fields, data, padding, and the FCS. To further elaborate on these, we have the descriptions. The next standard to be discussed is the 802.5 token ring. It's the most popular medium access method that uses the ring topology. By the name, the method follows a ring in the dissemination of data. Its MAC sublayer protocol uses a ring topology and is configured as a bus with connected endpoints that form a loop. It has a ring interface used to attach stations, and those have three modes. The token is a bit pattern circulating the ring when all stations are idle. Stations seize it if they desire to transmit. The active monitor station checks and removes frames that have traversed twice already to prevent endless loops. And the token is returned once the last bit of the frame is removed by the source station, marking the end of the transmission. For the physical layer specifications, it requires twisted pairs and follows differential Manchester encoding for signaling. It also allows for invalid differential Manchester patterns such as high-high or low-low, which it uses to mark the start and end of a frame. On the parts of its frame, we have two: the token frame and the MAC or LLC frame as depicted in the figures. For ring maintenance, the active monitor station is central and oversees the ring. It resolves concerns on lost tokens, orphan frames, short ring, and garbled frame on the ring. Now we arrive at Module 8, which is the network layer and the Internet protocol. The network layer is concerned with moving packets from end to end. It uses a routing algorithm to determine the best path from source to destination. It also provides services to the transport layer, which may be connection-oriented or connectionless. So for the routing algorithms, in a connectionless service, best path is sought for each datagram, while in a connection-oriented, the best path is only sought for the start of connection establishment, and it can be non-adaptive or adaptive. Some of those algorithms are the shortest path routing, which bears the last amount of hops is the target. Distance vector routing is based on an algorithm where each router has a routing table. Internetworking is the process or technique of connecting different networks by using intermediary devices. These are mainly the repeater, bridge, and router. The Internet Protocol. The Internet Protocol operates at the network layer of the Internet, is a connectionless service, and provides the basic unit for data transfer. It has no facilities for end-to-end data reliability, unlike connection-oriented services. Instead, it's up to the receiver to format the received data. And the datagram is a unit of information that IP transfers. For addressing, no two machines on the internet can have the same address. And each address has 32 bits and contains the network and host numbers. It's classified into 5 different classes, and it's usually written in dotted decimal notation like so. So the IP address has two portions, namely the network address and the host address. Notice that the network address consists of the entirety from 192 up to 0, and the host address is primarily on 5. That's because the host address resides in the network address, which is 192.123.10.0. Moving on to the IP address classes, we start with class 8. So in the figure, you can see that we have a predefined prefix of 0 as the first bit. So if we compute that into decimal, we get 0 to 127. So the range for this class is all 0 or 127.255 dash. However, all zeros and the 127 series are reserved. Therefore, the range is only confined to 1.0 dash and 126.255 dash. The next class is class B. Here we add another bit in the prefix, and it's now 10. Again, converting it to decimal, we have 128 and 191, which specifies their range as well. Similarly, for class C, we have 192 to 223, and we have now 3 bits as the prefix. For class D and E, we have 4 bits and 5 bits added respectively, and converts as such. As mentioned previously, we have reserved addresses, and for those IP address combinations, we have 0 series, which is used on boot up by hosts, and they indicate the default router, while the 127 series indicates loopback function. So if we actually, for example, ping in the command prompt 127.0.0.1, that actually pings your machine and therefore loops back to you. And 255 dash is used for limited broadcast. Datagrams is sent to all stations in the local network. So if we have a given specified network address and a host address of all 1, it's used for directed or distant broadcast. If we have a given specified host address and the network address is fixed as all zeros, then this pertains to a host on this network. So 0.0.0.5, for example, transmits to host 5 of the current network. Subnets. So we have 3 concepts on this, and it's subnet, which is a subdivision of an IP network. Subnetting is the technique of using portions of the host address to make them part of the network address. Then subnet mask, which masks the host portion in order to return only the subnetwork address. To further elaborate on subnetting, I derived an exercise from the module wherein the given is class B of address 165.222.0.0. So the target is to have at least 1000 hosts, and to achieve this we actually need 10 bits, and if we computed it, we have 1022 hosts. So the subnet address consists of 6 bits now. We identify the subnetwork by subnet masking. We mask the portion where the host is reserved. So since it's 10 bits, this is set as 0. Now the end result is something like this. In contrast, to identify the broadcast address, we just flip the host addresses. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.